A very good morning to all the students. I hope every one of you is fine and in your best health. Today we are doing chapter number 16, that is the last chapter of your NCERT book, Management of Natural Resources. This chapter is not a part of your CBSE theory paper. That means this chapter you don't have to prepare for your board theory exams. That means this is a deleted chapter. Now, why I am teaching this chapter to you today? So, you all know that chapter number 2 or chapter number not 2, but if we'll talk about NCERT book, so from the NCERT book, chapter number 7, that is control and coordination, has been deleted from your syllabus. You all know that. And along with that chapter, a portion from the chapter heredity and evolution portion has been deleted. Okay, so the next chapter is our environment, that is still there in your syllabus, but the last chapter, which is management of natural resources, this chapter is not a part of your CBSE syllabus for this year. So this year, this chapter, although is not a part of your CBSE syllabus, but that has been given from the CBSE guideline that this chapter will be used as internal assessment. That means that you have to make some assignment or some reports on this chapter on any other topic, and those reports will be evaluated by the teacher, and then it will be assessed as an internal assessment. That means this chapter is assessed as an internal assessment. Okay, so I am discussing this chapter with you so that a few points which you would be having confusion can be cleared. But this is an easy chapter, and you have been reading for for your younger classes also, the topics which we are reading about, those topics which you have been studying from your childhood. So coming with the topic is the management of natural resources. Now, what do you mean by resource? Now, anything which we use for ourselves is called as resource. And when we say natural resource, that means anything which comes from the environment and which we can use is called as natural resources. So these natural resources are limited in limited quantity because they can exhaust. So some natural resources cannot exhaust, so they are called as inexhaustible natural resources, such as sunlight, okay, air. So these are non inexhaustible, but water, your fossil fuels, so these are the exhaustible natural resources. So we have to manage these natural resources. Now, why do we need to manage these natural resources? These resources should be managed because they are important to us, and because their quantity is limited. So because of the rapid increase of the human population, these resources will exhaust one day, and because the demand is increasing day by day, so our next generation will not be able to use them. So we have to manage them in a proper manner so that these resources can be used for a longer term perspective, and we should prevent the exploitation. So for that we should also make some proper management things so that we can use, and every people, more and more people should be beneficial from this resources. So these management will take the consideration that they also will look that because of these natural resources, is it harming the environment or not. So because the we use fossil fuels like coal and petroleum, but they also harm the environment, so we should cut the use of them. Okay, so that is why we use management of natural resources. So that is a system of controlling the use of natural resources in such a way as to avoid their wastage and to use them in most effective way. So first we have to avoid the wastage. Also we have to look that by using these resources, aren't we harming our environment? So we have to stop using them in that way, and we should use in that way that it should not harm the environment. So now natural resources are many, like fossil fuels are there, water is there. So coming to the water, start with the topic pollution Ganga. So in your NCERT book here, you can make any assignment on Ganga river also. So this river, it crosses over 100 kilometers from Gangotri to the from the Himalayas to the Bay of Bengal. So because this is a sacred river and people worship a lot, but this river on this its journey is so long. So during all that journey, all the drains from the houses, from the industries, are dumped into the river, and cities like Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and West Bengal, they pour their garbage and excreta in the river. Because of that, the untreated waste materials pollute the river, which disturb the ecological balance of the river, and it kills the fishes and the aquatic animals like fishes. So Namami Ganga is a project. It's a project which is it started in the 2014. It was launched with a great enthusiasm to rejuvenate the river Ganga, and the mission is to clean. It is an old book, so it's in 2016 year, but it's still in there. So they are cleaning. Some ghats are being cleaned, but they have to go a long way. So this you can make a report. Now we should manage our waste also, because like this we have seen things like this. So to manage our waste, we have to use there are 5 hours actually. So you have been studying about 3 hours, so now there are 5 hours, which are reduce, reuse, refuse, recycle, and repurpose. Now reduce is that you have to reduce the use of the natural resources. Like we will not depend on these resources. Like we should not use electricity when we don't need it. If we are sitting in a room and we are working and it's a daytime, we should switch off the lights, and we should open our windows and curtains so that the natural light can come in, and we should conserve the electricity. If we are not feeling hot enough, we should not open our fans and AC, so that our electricity should be conserved. When in winter we don't feel much cold, we should not use heaters and all, and we can burn our or the waste any sticks and all to have hot water instead of using geyser and all. So this is how we can reduce our use for the natural resources. Now next is reuse. Anything which we can use again is called as reuse. Like we are bringing anything from market, and which is coming in a bottle or a jar. So we can reuse those bottles, glass bottles, to store pickles, and those plastic jars to store our condiments and all. So we can reuse our things definitely, so that it should not cause much waste. Then we should refuse matlab we have to say no to the things. Like we have to say no to the plastic. If you are going to a shop and the shopkeeper is offering you a poly bag and keeping your things in a poly bag, you have to say no, I don't need that poly bag. So you have to refuse to the things which harm the environment. Okay. Then recycle. Obviously you all know that we have to recycle our things. Like we can collect our plastic paper bags and glasses and metals, and we can give them to a junk dealer, and we can so that they can make another things out of them. So the number of tins and all present in the market should be reused, and the other products will be packed in all those old after recycling. Then it's repurpose means we are kind of a recycling, but in a lower level, at our own home level. We can repurpose our broken gamlas and all, cup handles to make planters and all. Okay, so these things, by using these 5 hours, we can reduce the waste and we can save the environment. Okay, so next is the forest and wildlife. Now forest and wildlife is also a very important part of our exhaustible resources, because forests are so beautiful. They give us so much oxygen, they give us life, they give us many things that you have learned in your previous classes. They give us medicine, they give us wood, timber, shelter to the animals, they conserve wildlife and all. They also maintain ecological balance. So we need to conserve our wildlife and forest as well. So the large area of land on which trees and other plants grow is called forest. We all know that. And the wild animals like elephant, deer, tiger and all, they live in the forest is called as wildlife. So the plants and animals of the forest are called as flora and fauna. And one of the main aim uh, to manage the forest and wildlife is to conserve the biodiversity. So the main aim is to conserve the biodiversity, and which we have got from the nature actually. So because the loss of the biodiversity, it will lead to an ecological disbalance, and if we will the forest ecosystem will also be hampered. So we should always try to conserve our forest and all. So you can make a note on this as well. Okay, so this chapter has many topics in which we can make notes. So this is also one of it. This is, you can read the book, you can take any of the topic and you can write a project report on this. Either you can give it in the form of an assignment also. Then we have to conserve the wildlife. To conserve wildlife, we should because we know that there is a large number of poaching and killing of wild animals which live in the forest, which is a serious threat to the wildlife. So we have to stop this. Now to conserve the biodiversity and forest, there are many things like the Chipko Andolan. You can write on this also. So now Chipko Andolan was it's a revolution. It was started by the people of Garhwal, and they are called as Reni. Okay, so it was a remote village which was called as Reni in Garhwal up in the Himalayas in early 1970s, and the logging contractor had been allowed to cut down the trees. There's a story. It's a real story. The Chipko Andolan. You can also write on this. So only this will be a small, but you have to make a good report on 2-3 pages. It would be a proper assignment, so that because it will give you 10 marks. Okay, so it was late in the 1970. So there was a people who had been given the authorities from the government to cut the forest. So the people of the village did not wanted to cut down the forest, and they knew that it will spoil their environment. So they hugged the trees. Okay, so they hugged the trees. Men and women hugged the trees, and they didn't allow the people to cut the trees, and they stayed there. So they people now celebrate Van Mahotsav also, so that the wildlife can be conserved. So this is how people are emotionally attached to the forest. Now water is also a natural source which we have just read. So because water is a basic necessity to all the form of life, be it human being, be it animals. So the region having good availability of water is very very flourishing with the greens and grains, because water nourish the soil and it allows the soil crops to grow well. So the resources of the water are river, rains, lakes and ponds. Okay, so oceans and glaciers are also there. So rain is very important resource. So we can also harvest the rainwater. So despite of the good rain, people are not able to meet the demands of the water for the people, because population is increasing, and due to lack of sufficient vegetation cover on the ground, only a little rainwater seeps into the ground, and rest of the water is just flows away into the river, and then river goes to the ocean. And the high yielding crops require much more water, so the people's lifestyle is changing and they are using more water in the urban areas. So we can make dams on the river. So in order to make proper use of water, dams are constructed. Okay, So one more thing is construction of dams can be done. So you can write a report on dams also. So dams, what are the uses of dams? Okay, water from the dam is used for irrigation. Water from a dam is supplied to the people in the town and cities through the pipelines, and the falling water is used to generate electricity. And the construction of the high rising dams can manage the river water, and it can helpful to generate electricity. So there are many things which are useful to us. And then pollution of the river. So at last then there will be fossil fuels, like this book is not having pages from after this. So coal and petroleum. So coal and petroleum are fossil fuels. So we have to use limited amount of these things, and because fossil fuels will exhaust one day, so we need to use them in a limited supply. And we have to, because electricity is also produced from the coal burning, so we should switch off the light, we should use solar cookers, and we should use public transport, and we should use stairs to climb up, and so on. Okay, so again the same thing, 3 hours, actually it's 5 hours which we have discussed. So this chapter is very easy. So you are making an internal assessment report on any of the topic of this chapter. So it will be of those marks will be added for your final terms. Okay, so everyone has to make that report, and your homework for today is just to make a report on this. Okay, so please do it. It's very, very important. It's mandatory for everyone. Okay, so take care, and please everyone do your work. Okay, thank you.